Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. I'm WolfStalker25, and today I'm going to be talking about Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Specifically, I might be talking about all the things I disliked, or the negatives about this game, or something like that. Now, before you start saying, like, you're only going to be negative, I do have a positives video and a pros video coming out later in the week, or next week, or something like that about the game. So, stay tuned for that, then give me your full, wrath in the comments. But I do want to say this is my opinion, as well as some of my friends' opinions as well. I did ask them before I started recording this video, before I made my little list here and stuff like that. This isn't really scripted, it's just kind of a little, bullet list. But, I did ask them for their opinions, and some of them gave it to me as well, and a lot of things they agreed with. We all kind of agreed on a lot of things as well. So, first let me say that, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, I had a lot of fun with. When the games were performing well, I had a lot of fun. I personally really enjoyed the story, and there's a lot of other things I really liked about it that I'll tell you in the pros video. But this game, I can't shy away and say that this game is like the perfect Pokemon game, because clearly this game is unoptimized and does not perform well. And I don't know if that is a malicious thing, like they did it intentionally because they're like, people will just buy it because it's Pokemon, and clearly it sold 10 million copies in 3 days based off of the US and I think Japan or something like that. So the game sold well, and that's just a thing showing them that, hey, they're just going to pay for it even if we don't put in enough effort. But I can't say whether or not this was intentional or it was an accident. Who knows? But hopefully it gets fixed soon. Alright, now, let's just say really quick, I want to say this, is a lot of Pokemon people, and myself included, do say this is a step in the right direction, phrases like that, or this is great groundwork. I always find myself saying that, and I said that with Sword and Shield. I said Sword and Shield was great groundwork, and I can't wait to see what they do in the future. And I was pleasantly surprised, and I really enjoyed my time with Legends Arceus. And Legends Arceus was another game that I said, this is great groundwork, I can't wait to see what they do in the future. And here we are, Scarlet and Violet. And again, game's great groundwork, but I'm tired of saying, and I think a lot of us should be tired of saying, I can't wait to see what they do in the future. These games, we pay $60 for them. We used to pay $40, and a lot of the time in those old $40 games, we got more content. And I think as people buying a product, we should expect that product to work right off the bat. We shouldn't be saying, don't worry, this will get patched, don't worry, this will get fixed. And that's a lot of problem with a lot of modern games, not just Pokemon. I do want to state that right now. But overall for Pokemon, like I said, had a lot of fun. But the performance issues with this game is the first number one negative. My game, when I played these games, ran poorly. I'm playing on a brand new OLED. I'm playing in docked mode. I also have a original year one Switch as well that I did play the game on. I beat Violet. I'm in the post game of Violet, the post game, quote unquote. But these games do not run well, and the performance is another big problem. The water, if you're ever near water, runs badly. If you're near a weather condition, runs badly. If it's raining and you're in the water, my game runs like a slideshow in Castle Royale Lake if those things happen. Another thing I do want to talk about really quick is the graphics. A lot of aspects of the game for the graphics, there are some that look really good, like specifically the Pokemon textures. But the overall, terrain and stuff like that, the environment does not look very good. In some aspects, it looks laughably bad. And I think for a $60 game coming out in 2022 from the biggest IP basically in the world, there should be a little bit more effort put into that, personally. Another problem that I have with this game is the render and draw distance of Pokemon. Pokemon pop in and out. NPCs are constantly laggy and framey looking all over the place. Specifically, one of the worst aspects is the opening cutscene in school. When you get to school for the first time and you're in your classroom, kids' legs are just 2 frames. And you'll see videos throughout this video or something popping up, images, stuff like that. But Pokemon pop in and out constantly. You can't have more than 2 Pokemon on 20 Pokemon on the screen at a time. And if any NPC gets more than 5 feet away from you, they're a slideshow. Another big problem this game has and suffers from with the open world is the fact that towns, personally, to me, feel empty. Open world feels empty. There are no building interiors. With me in my playthrough, I went to a town for the first time. I did my gym battle. I never went back. The only time I go back is for if I'm using them as a fly point. Another big problem that I have with this game, and that I've noticed, also being someone who did play Ark as well previously on the channel, is Pokemon are constantly spawning inside of the world mesh, inside of walls, inside of hills, under hills, inside of the ceilings and caves and walls and caves, and this becomes a problem if it's a rare spawn or if it's a shiny. You might not know that Pokemon's there because maybe you don't walk up to the walls and start peeking your camera through and trying to aim through them and look. And some of those Pokemon you can get, but when things are spawning in walls and hills and stuff like that, they're eating your personal spawns that you're getting around you. And with only 20 around you and them spawning so close to you most of the time, that's taken away potentially a lot of Pokemon, especially if they're spawning in the packs of 5s or whatever that they spawn in, and that whole pack spawns in a wall. You lose out on 5 of your 20 encounters, if it is truly 20. Now, another big problem that this game has is the menus. The menu and the PC boxes can be extremely laggy. Specifically, the PC boxes is what I'm talking about. They're very laggy, very slow, and that is a problem for me when I'm trying to look through them, and I can't look at a Pokemon, and I don't even know what's in a box when I first get to it. I have to wait. And I think that comes down to the problem of the boxes are open while the entire world and map is open as well, because it's accessible anywhere. So I think that's a problem there. Another little issue I have that kind of ties into the boxes is Pokemon sprites. There are specifically no shiny sprites in this game for anything unless you look at the model, which you have to wait for the model to load. So if you have a Pokemon in your party, let's say you have 2 Tyrannotars in your party, one shiny, one's not, you don't know which one's shiny or not, unless you nickname them. That's the only way you know. So that's kind of a problem, and I think shiny sprites all should have been a thing. Another big issue I have with this game is the level scaling. There is none, actually. Gyms have none, Team Star missions don't have any, and Titans don't have any. And this becomes a problem because one of the nice pros about this game is the open world. You could go anywhere, you could do anything in any order. But if you start the game with, let's say, if you try to go to the Ice Gym, which should be the 8th gym, you try to go do that first, you're going to be hitting like level 50s or something like that with your level 15 Pokemon. But you can't take that out. That's probably basically impossible. But another side note is if you come back to the Bug Gym, which probably should be the first gym of the game, and you try to do that last, you're going to be coming up against that with probably level 50s or 60s, and they only have 3 level like 18 to 15 bugs. You're going to stomp it. There should have been some sort of level scaling. I'm fine with the open world not scaling to you, like the Pokemon in the wild. They should be more of a difficulty area depending on where you go, you know? That should be a thing. I don't want the Sword and Shield aspect of once I beat the game, everything's level 60. I'd like to still capture low Pokemon. But the gyms, the Team Star missions, and the Titans should have been varied depending on like how many in that order you've already achieved or something like that. Or in general, like what you've done, they should all vary. I think that's something that a lot of people can agree with. Because, yes, there's open world and you could do anything in any order, but there's not really in any order. There is a set order that you should do it in. There's a little bit of a jumbling around that you could do, but there should be a set order you should go through if you want the game to still be any sort of challenge. Now, another issue that I personally had is the pre-gym challenges. Before you can do any of your gym battles, you have to go challenge a gym pre-challenge to be able to challenge the gym. All these pre-challenges are a waste of time. They're boring. Some of them are stupid. The only one that is relatively acceptable, or acceptable at all, is the ghost one, because it's just battles, and that's fun. But the rest of them are dumb, specifically the psychic gym. That one was really bad. Now, another issue that I have with this game, personally, is the post-game, or lack of it. There is not a post-game in this game. Once you have done the 3 stories, Victory Road, Path of Legends, and Operation Starfall, or the Team Star story, they lead into a 4th hidden story. That 4th hidden story takes you to the credits of the game, which takes you to the post-game, which the post-game is basically just go and rematch the gyms and do a thing. I won't tell you exactly what it is, but it's a thing afterwards. And that then takes you to the end of the post-game. There's nothing else you could do. At that point, it's just go complete your decks, go get your Pokemon ready for competitive online battles, and do Terra raids. That's your post game. That's it. There's those 3 things. Once you've done those 3 things, and a lot of people aren't going to want to spend every day just playing the game to do online battling or build a ton of different Pokemon for online battling. So there's no battle tower, there's no extra quests, there's no 3rd legendary that you can get, there's nothing like that. I think it's a big shame, and Pokemon really needs to work on that post game. One of the funnest post games to me was the Delta episode for Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire. That was like the coolest post game that we had, with an entirely new added on story into the end of the game, which I think was awesome. Now, another big issue I have with this game is the school uniforms and character customization. There isn't any. The character customization for at least your actual clothing is set to 4 uniforms. Summer, spring, fall, and like winter uniforms. It was like things like that. You only have 4, you can't change it, everyone looks the same, there's no variety with your characters, and this game has multiplayer, so you can play with your characters and nobody looks cool. Sword and Shield had a way better character customization, and this is a huge step backwards in terms of that. Now, hopefully the DLC fixes this problem and they give us more outfits, because as soon as we left off of school, or like something like, or now that you're done with the game, you should be able to change your character outfit. My opinion, as soon as the treasure hunt started and you're away from the school, a whole option of outfits should have been available to you at other towns where you could customize your character, especially if you're roaming around. It just feels really weird that everyone looks the same all the time, especially with the cool outfits that the Team Star guys have, where you don't get any sort of customization, especially after you defeat them. Another thing I personally dislike about the game is the Pokemon designs. I think this generation has a very weak roster of Pokemon designs. There are some really good ones, and some of my friends personally thought that the designs of this game were really good. I personally am not one of those people. I think the designs in this generation some of them are very lazy, some of them are very bad. There are some Pokemon, in my opinion, that don't even look like Pokemon. Now, one of my favorite designs from this entire generation is Armarouge, and in my opinion, Armarouge almost doesn't even look like a Pokemon. Him and Ceruledge, I like both of them. They almost look more like Digimon to me, which I'm fine with, and I actually like them, but there are a lot of other ones that just don't feel like Pokemon. And I don't know if that's just me, but let me know if that's what you think. On top of the Pokemon designs being potentially bad, there are a lot of shiny Pokemon designs this generation specifically for the new Pokemon, and I'm going to show some on screen right now. Some of them are unnoticeable. Shiny designs this generation kind of fall in like one of 3 categories. There are the really good ones, there are the really like bad unnoticeable ones, and then there are some that are just like pink. There's really no other in between. You fall into kind of 3 categories, and that's it. And that's kind of an issue. And speaking of shiny Pokemon, we're going to get into another big problem that I have, and I know a lot of other people have with these games, and that is the fact that there is no indication of there being a shiny anymore. There's no shiny sound like Legends Arceus, there's no shiny sparkle that appears in the overworld. There's no even shiny, like, aura that comes off of a shiny Pokemon. No sparkles when you're close enough. If you like hit the L button and aim at them, my opinion should be there should be shiny sparkle, like a shiny symbol next to their name when you're aiming at them. Or there should even be like the Terra Pokemon that roam around in the overworld. There should just be a little like aura sound that like resonates off of a shiny, like how the Terras have. But that's just my opinion, and this is one of the other really big things that Scarlet and Violet makes really apparent. Same as Sword and Shield, same as Legends Arceus. This is a big problem I have, and this is one of the directions I would like them to move forward with Pokemon in, is voice acting. There's no voice acting in this game anywhere. There's a lot of cutscenes, a lot of videos throughout this game, where voice acting would be great. The opening part of the game, when they talk to you. Several times when you talk to the director Clavel and all these other people. There should be voice acting with Pokemon moving forward. Pokemon Masters, a mobile game, has voice acting for a lot of their characters. Granted, a lot of time it's just them like yelling a voice line or something like that. But when you have access to voice actors for that game and a mobile game, or all your anime voice actors, especially with your talented anime voice actors that you have, and a lot of voice actors in general that would love to get into the series and just voice these characters for you, I think it's really unfortunate that we don't have it, and moving forward, I think we need it, because these games are showing signs of needing it, in my personal opinion. Now, this is the really big last complaint I have before we move on to a ton of little nitpicks and like small complaints, is my biggest other complaint that I have is the Pokedex for this game. There's 400 Pokemon total in the base Pokemon Pokedex of this game, and that's it. You have 107 new Pokemon and 293 returning Pokemon out of 905 before this. That's not counting regional forms, so like your Galarian Meowth and stuff like that, and your Alolan Meowth. It doesn't count those. That is 900 Pokemon in general before all those. With those forms, it's even more. So you have 612 Pokemon that are left out of the game. I personally think the no National Dex thing is wrong. Pokemon reuses models consistently most of the time. They might add new animations, they've now changed the textures, but I'm sure some of these models might still be the same. Some of them might be different, and they might have done all new models for this game, and if they did, I, applaud them, and I think it's great, and I'm happy for them. But I think the other 612 Pokemon that we got waiting for us to get onto the Switch, especially the fact that there are 26 Pokemon that have never been on the Switch. If you are curious about what Pokemon didn't make it into Scarlet and Violet and what 26 Pokemon aren't on the Switch at all, I did do a separate video. Card might be on screen right now, or it's one of the most other recent videos on the channel where I talk about that. I would recommend going to watch that because I did put a lot of time and effort into that video, and I would greatly appreciate it if you did watch it. But it's also kind of like interesting to see what Pokemon didn't make it and where maybe the future Pokemon games could go after this one. So, like I was saying though, the no National Dex really sucks, especially with 7 generations before, especially with generations 1 through 7, which were all on handhelds, having the National Dex and being able to hold those 700, 800 Pokemon. And now the stronger console on the Switch cannot handle that many. I don't buy it. I think it's kind of just lazy on their part, and I think we should have it back at this point. Now, here are the small nitpicks. All that previously was like the big problems I had with the game. On top of that, there are graphical issues and glitches, and there's other just glitches and bugs that happen throughout the game, and I didn't experience as many of those as a lot of other people have. But those are all problems within their own right, and everyone has different performance and graphics issues and stuff like that I will state. But the other small nitpicks that I and some friends had is the fact that there's no sleeping animations in battles. There are in the wild, but in battle there's no sleeping animations anymore if you put a Pokemon to sleep or something like that. And we've had them in previous games where like the Pokemon's eyes would close. They don't even close now. Another issue that one of my friends had is, this is the complaint that they had, is like, you have the set Terra Pokemon that are on specific routes that are like the golden glowing ones that you see. They're always the same type. So like there's in Castleroya Lake, there's a Azumarill in there. Azumarill is always a fairy Terra type. I think personally these Pokemon should have had a handful of types set to them that they can spawn with to give you a reason to keep going back and battling them to capture more. Otherwise, they kind of just eat up a spawn there, and the only reason really to keep battling them is for LP, and that's kind of boring. Now, another issue that I personally have, and some of my friends agreed with this too, is the terastallizing crown on the top of Pokemon's heads, showing the types and everything like that, is honestly kind of dumb. I wish there was a better way that they could have designed it. I personally would like it if they just had the crystal aura, like, of the type, like, going around them, like, with the color, so you could just tell that way. Maybe has something else besides the crown. I know a lot of people say that there's the little face with the eyes on the front of the crown. If you haven't noticed yet, there's a theory that that's like tying into the third legendary, because the third legendary ties into terastallizing, which will probably be in the DLC, and we'll hear all about that then. But they could have found somewhere else to put that little face badge thing. It could have gone on the Pokemon's chest, could have gone just on their head or something like that, floated above them separately. I think the big type crown is just a little silly and goofy and just kind of looks bad. You could kind of tie this into the gimmicks. I personally am still not a fan that Mega Evolution and the other gimmicks get just erased after every generation. I personally would love if all the gimmicks would stay and just have their own like separate playlist in the online, or just not be allowed in like the competitive online mode, but they still exist in the game, because you get a lot of Pokemon like, let's say, Pinsir and Scizor, or Heracross for example, that could use evolutions, and they got their megas to like bring them up to par with other Pokemon properly. And now that the megas are gone, a lot of these Pokemon have fallen back into the like kind of almost useless category for some of them, where they just don't get used anymore because their megas kind of define them, or their Gigantamax forms define them. And now that those don't exist anymore, or they're like special Z moves made them like really good. Now that those don't exist, a lot of Pokemon just kind of like fall back into the unused and just never seen anymore categories, which kind of sucks. And some of those gimmicks and forms are really cool, and not seeing them back anymore is really just unfortunate. Now, another thing really quick is the changing the terror types of your Pokemon is just a little too hard and grindy, and I think this could have been fixed by, instead of each Pokemon, now if you want to change your terror type, here's how it works. You need, let's say you have Fuecoco. Fuecoco is always going to be a fire terror type. If you would like to change his terror type, let's say to Ghost, to match his third evolution's typing, you need to go get 50 Ghost Terra Shards from raids, or if you collect them in the world, which they're not very easy to come by, and then it changes his Terra type to Ghost, and then it's permanently Ghost unless you change it again to a different typing. When you change that typing, it does not save the previous typing, which I think is a little dumb. I think how this should have been is Terra Shards should have just been the 50 shards, but they shouldn't have been type specific. They should have just been Terra Shards. And once you use those 50 shards on that Pokemon, it unlocks their ability to like be customized at that point. So like if you used 50 Terra Shards on Fuecoco, then you could just freely choose what Terra type you want on him. It's like you unlock the customization requirement. I think that's how they should have done it, and I think how they did it is a little too grindy and a little too annoying. Now, another thing that I have an issue with that's also a little too grindy and a little too annoying to get because they're a little rare and they should have been just sold at a shop in like Meslagosa, is the specifically the EV resetting berries. The only way to get these is from the little like flickering gold drops on the map and at the auction house in the game at the one town where it's at. You could get a bundle of them there usually. But I think they should have been buyable in like Mesagoza. With EV training and competitive Pokemon building being as easy as it's ever been in this game, EV resetting is still as annoying as it's ever been. And I think that should have been fixed to where you could just, EV reset your playthrough team afterwards. You don't have to EV train your team while you're playing the game. You could just EV train them afterwards after you reset them from playing through, because your EVs are always all messed up anyways, unless you specifically go out of your way to train them right off the get-go. Now, another thing is the removal of abilities, like the ability to quick move items from your Pokemon in your party. Now, if you want to do this, you have to go back into your PC, and then you switch it there. You hit like the X button, then you could change the items there and everything like that. It's no longer just an easy, just let me go hit the Y button and I could like hover over the Pokemon that has like the Lucky Egg and switch it to another one in my party. You have to go into your PC, which is slow and moving and stuff like that. I think that from Sword and Shield should have stayed, and I think it's a step backwards that we lost it. Now, these are a couple Legends Arceus style of things that we had that the removal of them just really kind of sucks. The no out of battle capturing like Legends Arceus just feels slow and clunky. Now, not being able to just throw a ball and keep moving, or just like throw a ball at like maybe a more passive Pokemon and capture it outside of battle just feels weird. Now you have to go back into battle with everything. It's slow, it takes a while. I would have just liked that capture feature from Legends still to be in the game. Another thing is you can't switch your lead Pokemon like you could while playing in Legends. Like Legends used to have that little menu where you hit like the Y button, then you just like scrolled on the D-pad or hit like some other button to like switch it. I think the fact that we don't have that anymore really kind of sucks. But there are some other things that got switched to the D-pad now. So I just would have liked to have been able to switch my lead party member while I'm out in the wild, so I could just like change it for like, quick access of doing the Let's Go feature or something like that. And another thing that I personally didn't like is the Pokemon just evolve now when they hit their specific level. In Legends Arceus, they changed it to where if your Pokemon, like let's say your Fuecoco, he hits level 16, he's supposed to evolve then. In Legends Arceus, once they hit 16, that unlocked the ability for them to evolve. If they did their requirement to evolve, like let's say Palmo, he's walked 1,000 steps with you, it would just then start flashing saying, this Pokemon can evolve, would you like to do it? So it allowed you to, let's say you're like me and you don't like Sprigatito's evolutions, and you want to use your Sprigatito on your team, but let's say maybe he hits level 100, and you decide later that you want to evolve it, and it's hit its requirement already. Well, now you can't. Now you have to use that Everstone on them again to make them not evolve, which really kind of sucks, and it's annoying, and it just like, it's an irritation on your gameplay. But alright, that's going to do it for me now. Those are all the complaints that I kind of have with this game. I think Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, like I said, is a really fun game, and I've had a lot of fun having it, like playing them and everything like that. But I've also had a lot of problems with these games so far, with like these issues that I've stated here. Let me know in the comments below if you have any of the same complaints that I do, or that some of my friends did, because I know a lot of them agreed with a lot of things that I agree with here in this game. But that's going to do it for me. If you did enjoy this video, please do go check out the pros of the video as well, instead of just commenting saying I'm bashing the game or anything like that, because I do really like the game. So go check out the pros video, see what all I have to say there. That will be out either before or after this. So if you have, and you do agree with me in anything, let me know in the comments below what you agree with. And on top of that, if you haven't done so already, would always appreciate a like as well as a subscribe. I'm trying to rebuild this channel and grow it from the ground up again, so I would greatly appreciate it. It does help me a lot, and it means a lot to me as well. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will catch you all in the next one.